offense, they also have very good players. So that's the fantasy relevance of the Rams. Yeah, Darrell Henderson continues to
Real
be
hard hitting analysis coming from you on
yeah,
this one.
continues to be great. I'm shocked that the Rams are 7.5 point favorite. I'm the biggest Rams fan besides Rams fans, but it's like I don't know.
That sentence, like I knew what you were saying. And welcome to the Week 9 preview episode of DB2 here on Wednesday with you as always, David Brem, Daniel Butler. Butler, you ready for Week 9?
Where did that time go? We're halfway through the season,
Yeah.
and hopefully your matchups, your fantasy, uh, you're looking good for playoffs. I think both of my money leagues, I'm looking good. My high dollar money leagues, I'm looking good right now. But painful week this past week, which I know you said that as well. So not,
Oh, I got trounced.
but you everybody that happens sometimes. You got to keep going, feeling good. And what better way to cleanse the palate than talk about the Jets coming off of a big upset. I didn't talk about this last week, but that felt like a trap game, and I know it's easy to say that in hindsight, but the Bengals, number one seed in the AFC and a big favorite against the Jets. And it just felt like that 10 point. I think they were like a 10 point favorite. It felt like a big number for the Bengals. It felt like the game that the Jets were going to probably play them tough. Now, granted, I did not expect Mike White to throw for 405 yards and three touchdowns, putting him in at quarterback 3 for the week. Had a really nice day. And honestly, like if they're going to let him sling it 45 times, 40 times, whatever it is, 30 plus, there is definitely some value here for the Jets. And mostly at the running back spots because he really likes throwing it to his running back. So
Yeah,
Michael
for
Carter,
sure.
I think, is now like this. If you have held on to him this whole time, like you should, like you wouldn't have dropped him, but like he may not have made the top 2, with bye weeks now and all that. He may not have made the cut to start. I think he's ready now. This feels like all right. If you need him, he's ready for you with DeAndre Swift on bye. Chris Carson and Alex Collins on bye. Chris Carson on IR, obviously. The Buccaneers with Fournette. In Washington, you're losing McKissick and obviously Gibson, who you may be starting. So there's a lot of starting running backs that are out. So Michael Carter.
Well, I think Carter was on the edge of being a starter anyways.
Oh yeah, for sure.
And then with this development, which seems like he's gonna be more involved in the passing game. I mean, he has. Obviously, I feel like you could, like you said, a lot of buys. You could be starting him out of necessity this week, but I think even if you're not in that spot, you've got to take a hard look at him, depending if you don't have a couple of studs in your starting lineup.
Yeah, he's been super consistent. Like, I mean, you look at his last 3 weeks. Week 5, running back 23, or even if we go back to week 4, running back 29. Week 5, running back 23, had a bye. Running back 13 in week 7, and then in week 8 had running back 1. So this was obviously a really good week for him. And Ty Johnson was running back 9, which is kind of weird to have 2 Jets running backs as top 10 guys. But you look at the receiving, and that's where it is. Ty Johnson had 5 for 71 and a touchdown. So this is the type of thing. Like Ty Johnson is kind of,
he's a flex. You have to look at it. I mean,
last 3 weeks
he's been on an
top
uptick.
30. Yeah, so, and he's even getting better as it went on. And if Mike White, again, if he throws to this many times and likes throwing it to the running back, which as a young quarterback, both of these running backs have shown that they can do well out of the backfield. Like, I don't know if this will slow down. I'm not saying he's going to be running back 9. Obviously, I wouldn't take him as a top 10 or top 20 guy, but I feel like as that flex consideration, if you need a running back on a bye in a deeper league, especially like a second running back, like Ty Johnson's, you could do worse. The only thing is he only saw 30% of the snaps. So obviously Michael Carter is the guy you want. But when Ty Johnson's out there, obviously he did quite well.
Yeah. And I'm going to definitely keep my eye on Crowder. If White, it seems to be a guy that White likes to look at. He's had a decent season overall anyways. And if he turns out to be the guy that White likes to look at, we know that. We know quarterbacks have preferences on who they like to throw to. It was the whole basis of us liking Jamar Chase. Quarterbacks have preferences. So if it turns out that Crowder is his preference, I mean, it could be a huge boom for him.
I'm a big fan of Crowder in PPR especially. I think he's really, really solid. Glad to have him back. He's been good since he's been back. So, he's been good. So I'm a big Crowder fan. and I think you can do worse if you got to put him in as like a wide receiver three.
Also, we saw it this week with Croft. With new quarterbacks, they tend to lean on tight end a little more. He was tight end 11. I don't know that that'll continue, but
I just want to pump the brakes a little bit. It was 2 for 20 and a touchdown.
I,
The
okay. I did I say start him? I said keep an eye
He
on
had
it.
2 targets, but I do. This actually is this something I want to say. So thank you for bringing this up. Tight ends this week was an absolute wasteland. The number one tight end was like 18 points. Then, like, if you wanted to be, top 12, Croft had like 8. So it's like, usually there's like 15 guys or so that are like 10 points ish. It was a complete wasteland this week. The big guys did not perform either. Hawkinson was like the only one. Kelsey wasn't good. Pitts wasn't good. We'll talk about those guys, but yeah, it was in a complete wasteland this week in tight end land.
No, I'm not doubting that. I'm just saying keep an eye on new quarterbacks like tight ends. You know this. You're just trying to make me look stupid. Uh, Other side, we got the Colts. We touched on them a little bit yesterday, in our kind of waiver wire. Like, even though it was stupid because he wasn't waiver wire, we just kind of touched on. But Pittman went off. A guy we've both really like, and especially like going forward, it looks like is going to be somebody you can definitely rely on. But I mean, wide receiver number 2, you can't ask for much more from him.
I mean, he was drafted at 43. That he's obviously has been super good the last couple weeks, especially. Yeah, I think he's borderline top 10. Honestly, like
Yeah,
if he's the number one guy there. Obviously, had 15 targets. Carson Wentz is looking. I mean, this wasn't his best game. He threw it 51 times, only had 230 yards, had a couple picks as well. I'm not saying Wentz was great here, but anytime I said this with Mike White too. Like if you have a quarterback that throws that much, if they're gonna sling it, you're gonna have quite a lot of value. And obviously, he likes looking at Pittman. We can see that with the 15 targets the last couple weeks. So he's been really good. So yeah, Pittman borderline top 10. Like he is
no,
so good. I don't think there's really anything else like
no.
Pascal or anything in the wide receiver. T.Y. Hilton we talked about in the injury. Unfortunately,
I
another
just don't see
injury.
how you can ever trust him.
I do want to mention real quick. Is there a better running back than for just consistency? But now that Derrick Henry, unfortunately, than Jonathan Taylor.
No, he's just been
I mean, the last 5 weeks,
starting
he's
week
been
4. Yeah,
top 8 every week. I mean, that's insane. So he started off not great, the first 3 weeks, and then I mean he's been playing catch up, but yeah, he might end up finishing as one of the, he's definitely going to probably finish as a top 5 running back, and yeah, he's just been absolutely incredible. So I don't know where he would be at rest of season, but we were way too low on him. I think
yep.
he's probably, I mean, he's got to be top 5. I think.
Oh yeah, going forward,
You
absolutely.
got. I mean, let's even say McCaffrey comes back and you have Kamara, and even though Cook had a bad day, but after you get in Eckler, I think Jonathan A. Taylor's right there though, and I'm not even
Yeah,
sure if he's behind some of those guys. So yeah, he's been super good.
yeah. We were that was one of our worst takes uh, coming into the season because I think we were both fairly low on him. So um, yeah, he's definitely proved us wrong. Next up, Raiders Giants. Raiders to the ball coming off a bye week. Um, Second episode in a row we've had to talk about off the field stuff affecting fantasy, and it's something we don't want to think about fantasy, but it's what we do. Coming as Ruggs, if you're following, you know the whole situation. Appears to not be playing anytime soon for a very stupid decision, and he probably wasn't a guy like he might have been. He could be on your team, but he probably wasn't on in your starting. Um, but obviously a guy you can drop at this point. I could shifting to fantasy. I could see this being good for Brian Edwards. Brian Edwards is on the field a lot, and he hasn't been doing a ton with those looks, but he could be getting more looks now with a pared down receiving core.
Yeah. Seems. Yeah, this is, I always say it seems
I
silly,
hate
with
it.
the Calvin Ridley stuff, but I mean, this is even more, even, sweet of a loss of life.
Yeah.
So, just tragic, and yeah, it's just a stupid decision. Touches very close to home. A lot of dumb decisions around in my household, or not in my personal household, but in my family, that stuff like this. So it's just sickening. But yeah, if we just, I mean, we got to talk about football, I suppose. I will say that I think Hunter Renfro He only had 55% of snaps. I'm not sure if there's any injuries. I don't think back in week 7, but yeah, I mean he had 7 for 58. Really nice
Yeah.
PPR option. So I like Renfro. Carr had a really nice day the last time we'd seen him in week 7 as well. So a solid quarterback, a solid. I know you don't like Derek Carr, but
I
he's
don't.
solid. He's been he's had a few week 4 and week 5. He wasn't great like fantasy performance, but every other week he's been great. So what way better than what you expected. So yeah, I think he's gonna be able to get them the ball. So Renfro, I think, um, yeah, I don't
I
want
think
to
they
say.
could both.
I
Yeah,
don't want
they
to
could both.
say like I don't even
No.
want to talk about this. Like
Yeah.
yeah,
So.
you use your own judgment on who you want to play. But I personally, obviously, Henry Ruggs is going to be facing jail time for probably a long time, at least a few years. So uh, yeah,
Let's get off the Raiders. The running backs. I will say the running backs. Drake has had a couple good weeks in a row. I don't know how to feel about if I could justifiably put him in my lineup, but the last 2 games he's played, he's been 8 and 11. He's actually been better than Jacobs.
yeah, he had 14 carries in
So
this past game as well. So he actually outsnapped Josh Jacobs, and I don't know if that's again. I know Jacobs been banged up a little bit, but something
yeah,
just to
the bye
monitor.
week could help that.
Yeah,
Yeah,
so just keep an eye on those snap counts. If they're close to 50-50, this could be. I'm not saying this is good as run game, obviously, or pass game. Better pass game than Cleveland, but I'm not saying they're going to be top 12 guys like what Cleveland was doing. But they're both could be starting running backs
if they continue
if
to
they
get
get
work.
fifty
Yeah,
fifty ish.
absolutely. All right, Giants. Um, Barkley looks like he could be back this week, which would be awesome for Barkley owners and good for football as a whole. After losing some other guys, so it looks like it's kind of up in the air. I think they're leaning towards it. Um, Barkley's not a guy where I think like the first week he's back, you wait to see if he's 100% because I think even at 50% he's worth starting. So probably, I mean, obviously spells the end for Booker. Like Booker's not a guy who's going to get. I don't think he's going to have value once Barkley's back at all.
Yeah, he goes back as being a strict handcuff, basically. But Booker's actually been pretty solid, which does give
Oh
me
yeah,
optimism that if you've played Booker, you've been decently happy, I think, with him. But he had 5 catches for 65 yards as well, on top of the 15 for 60, no touchdown, and still ended up as running back 14. So that's always good. But yeah, if Barkley comes back, it just gives me optimism to see how they use Booker. If they use Saquon similar, you would expect him to do at least that, probably more. So he goes right back in as a top 10 guy when he's healthy. Fortunately, that's been a concern with Saquon for his short
yeah,
career so far. But wide receiver wise, yeah, Saquon obviously if he's back
still a
out there,
wasteland.
he's playing. If Saquon's out there, you play him. If he's not, you play Booker. Pretty easy decision there. But yeah, Tony, I still like his talent. You're not starting him. Shepard left this game. I still think if he's healthy,
Yeah,
which all these receivers, if he is healthy, I still think Shepard is a really nice PPR option. He's a high volume guy, gets a lot of targets, and just always performs. This week he didn't because he got banged up, but I believe he left, but only had 38% of snaps. I think I saw that he did leave this game.
yeah,
So yeah, but when he's out there, he's generally been really good. He's just been nicked up, as all of these wide receivers have been basically. So
yeah.
I don't even know. Like Daniel Jones is not a great quarterback, so I feel like I can't just talk about one quarterback, which I'm sure we'll talk about. No, they're on bye. Okay, he's. I know I talk
No,
about.
no, nope. I will say we've talked about this wide receiver core and said like, hey, if one of these guys is the only one on the field, like he has, I think at this point, unless it's Shepard, I'm not going anywhere near it.
Yeah,
Like
but I do
I'm
think if
just not.
Shepard is healthy, especially if some of the other
Yes.
guys, I'm okay with starting him. I think he's like a top 20, probably top 30. I'd say he's probably
Yeah.
just inside the top 30. I like
Yeah.
him.
Yeah. All right. Falcons Saints. Um, kind of the names you're used to. You still want nothing to do with Matt Ryan. Pitts didn't have a good game. He'll be fine.
Yeah.
I mean, like you said, it was a bad weekend overall for tight ends. We touched on this yesterday. Ridley out for an unspecified amount of time. Uh, we, I think, agree that Sharp is probably the guy who benefits the most from that. He's about like a borderline guy, probably at this point. Somebody you could think about. Cordell, you're starting. Uh, Davis, depending on the situation you're in, could still be in your starting lineup. But kind of a guy you hope you have a better option.
Yeah, Davis is like a late 20 running back ish.
Yeah.
He's been fairly consistent outside. Really has been really consistent outside of week 7. So you get about not quite what you paid for when you drafted him, but you're gonna get like a late 20 production every week. He seems to get into the end zone or something. Every week he
Yeah.
finds a way to get in the top 30, basically. So he's a fine play. You're not excited about it. He does basically no upside. Obviously Patterson is the guy that you want there, and who knows what will happen with Ridley,
Yeah.
and who
If
knows
you
how.
watched us yesterday, I think I said I think I'm gonna have to drop him. Like I'm in limited bench spots. I've backed off that. The more I read about it, the more this could be more of a short term thing than I initially read it as.
Well, yeah, we just don't know. But
No.
with the on field stuff here, we'll see how the offense changes. This was very much not a good game by Ryan. Just never went downfield. 20 of 27 for only 146. So not a whole lot that you could do when you only throw for 146 yards as a receiver. Sharp, obviously the best there. Well, I guess Patterson as a because he had the touchdown, but yeah, just not much there. But yeah, I
Yeah.
do think Mike Davis is fine. Another late 20s guy. Patterson obviously is starting, and Pitts you're obviously starting, and
Yeah.
Sharp in maybe a deeper league you could start, but not may even have better options.
No. And onto a team where, just like every week, there's one player we care about for fantasy, the New Orleans Saints. There's going to be a change at quarterback, and it just doesn't matter. Like, unless only in the deepest of leagues. I did see Taysom's getting picked up a lot. I think people are overvaluing what he can do, but
Yeah, I don't feel. I mean, assuming I haven't heard if he's named the starter yet or not, but assuming he is, I mean, I'm kind of. I mean, we'll see. I mean, I'm not gonna obviously would never play him
no.
coming. I don't know what's gonna happen here, and even if they name him the starter, he might still like it might still be Simeon like a lot. So I don't
Yeah.
know. I would not be surprised if they still use Simeon in that situation. I will say Michael Thomas could be back here from the last update. So
Yeah.
I would not play him this week if I could avoid it, but wait and see. As a Michael Thomas owner, I'm hoping for Simeon just because I think he's more that pocket passer. I think that would be better for Michael Thomas. I could be wrong, but we'll wait and see. I want to see this game. I want to see how they do against Atlanta. Not a great defense. I want to see, you know, if this they have a passing offense without Jameis, and if they do,
Yeah.
then maybe Michael Thomas could be pretty good. But for now, I would sit him on my bench and wait. But that is the name I think that everybody's going to be watching this game.
Yeah. I think that's fair. I don't have him anywhere, but I think I'd probably wait on him. Uh, Next up, Bills Jags. Uh, Josh Allen is a stud, continues to do stud things. Another week sitting there at number one. Um, Moss has another top 25 day. I mean, it's nothing, you don't get crazy about it, but I mean, you're pretty happy about it. And wide receiver wise, Diggs is still a guy you're starting in almost every league unless you're in a pretty bad spot. Or I mean, pretty good spot, not a bad spot. If you're in a pretty good spot, maybe you don't have to start him. Um, but we've been pretty high, especially me, and I believe you, if I remember correctly, have been higher on Sanders than Beasley. But Beasley had a great game this week, and really is neck and neck with Sanders on the season.
That's what 0 for 0 will do for you.
Yeah, that
And the
doesn't
other
help.
guy goes 10 for 110. But yeah,
Yeah,
obviously Sanders has been well ahead of him up until this week. Unfortunately, this is the type of case here. I guess Beasley did well. I mean, everybody
Beasley
did
was
well
an
in
11
six
and
week
6.
six.
Yeah,
But I still think there was probably not really anybody that played him this week, pretty much. So it's like you can't
yeah.
really take advantage of it. But now, obviously you see it a couple weeks in a row. You might be able to. Diggs,
I still like Sanders more, but
yeah, I think this is an anomaly. I mean, obviously, Sanders 4 targets, zero. Like he actually had Beasley had 13 targets. Another one of those sneaky.
trying to get us just
Anyways, why did I do that? But Dawson Knox didn't play in this game, so that's why you see a big goose egg. So hopefully he didn't play him because he didn't play this week.
yeah.
Zach
I was
Moss.
trying to see. I'm trying to figure out if
What's
I
going
don't
on
think
there?
that's gonna. I don't think that's gonna go on to this week. But I
Yeah. Zach Moss, 8 for 19. Obviously not a good day. Obviously got his work in the receiving game with those 7 targets, 6 for 39. He's still obviously the guy you want to own over Singletary. He outsnaps him by like 2 to 1. So Moss is still a solid play for sure. And this, I will say, I don't usually give betting advice, but I'm high on Jacksonville's offense.
yes.
14 and a half seems way too much for Buffalo. They're favored by 14 and a half in Jacksonville. This kind of feels like a game that Jacksonville is going to, I think they're going to be competitive. I know they lost Robinson, but I feel like they're going to make this a lot closer than that. I'm not saying they're going to win. I wouldn't take any money line or anything, but I kind of feel like Jacksonville is, I think they're not going to get blown out. I'm going to go out on a limb and say they're not going to get blown out.
Yeah, I think that's a lot of points. I think that's a lot of points for really any NFL team that's not the Houston Texans. Um, you know what? I feel a little bad about saying that. But yeah, I think that's a lot of points. But I also think there's a decent, like, I don't know. I just think I'd avoid betting on it, to be honest. Um, I can't find any information. I think Knox is going to be back this week. I can't. I can't really find
All right.
anything.
Well, I jumped into the Jacksonville already, so I guess.
I know. I know,
Uh,
but I was
no, I
trying to
mean,
give
I
people
I, I
answers.
kind of
Yeah.
forgot that we hadn't talked about them. I love Trevor Lawrence. Obviously, did not have
Yeah.
a good game against Seattle.
No.
It was bad. He did throw it 54 times though. I maintain. I'll keep saying this. If a quarterback throws that much, there is going to be value somewhere on that offense, and there was with surprise Jamal Agnew with 12
Yeah.
targets. Granted, he only did six
Yeah.
for 38, but he did get in the end zone. But Dan Arnold, another really nice, well, a nice day, but not enough. He's only had a few of those, but so he's getting, he was traded, so he came from Carolina, so he's new to this team as well. So he's learning everything. And another,
Mhm.
I really like Dan Arnold. I kind of liked him in Carolina as well. So I feel like I think this is kind of where I think at not number two, but I
Yeah.
think he could be a nice plug and play if you need a tight end. I definitely like that. Carlos Hyde had 8 targets in the backfield as well. I think is a really nice pickup. I know you're not excited about Hyde, but he'll he'll get volume. I mean,
Yeah.
Jacksonville, they pass. They're gonna have to pass a lot. You're gonna get volume. He's gonna be involved in the pass game. We can see that in this game, which you like that as a running back, especially in a PPR format. So Hyde, I think will have a nice day here, even if it is a blowout. I still think he'll get enough, receptions and stuff to kind of salvage the day.
Yeah. Yeah, I would agree with pretty much everything. I would touch a little bit more on Agnew. I think they've been waiting for a wide receiver to kind of step up, and like Marvin Jones has had a couple weeks that he did that, but I mean Agnew, he's been in the 20s the last couple weeks and 35 the week before that. So I don't know.
I will.
I kind of am interested to see if you have a decent sized bench or anything like that, a guy to maybe
I will
stash.
say, somebody asked in the comments a few days ago about who you would play, Marvin Jones or Jerry Judy. Between those, I said that's really really close. Jerry Judy's coming back. Like I go Marvin Jones because I expected Trevor Lawrence to have a better day, and I expected decent things from this offense, and I was right. But it was like 8.5 to 8 or something. It was very close, but I just want to pat myself on the back. I picked the right one. It didn't probably help you much because 8.5 or 8 points is not overly that different. But I
Hey, it would
did
have
pick the
helped you
right
this.
one.
It would have helped you this week.
That's true.
That half point would have helped you this week. So
Uh,
yeah, I don't know that I'm starting Agnew right now, but he's a guy that we've talked about. We like the schedule at the end of the season. Like there's a lot of this week is not a great week. It's just not. Which unfortunately is also the week I could really use Trevor Lawrence because Tom Brady's on a bye. But this is probably not the week to. But if he can do it this week, Agnew again, he's a guy you got to start thinking about throwing in your lineup, in my opinion.
yeah, I know it's gonna be. I don't think it's gonna be pretty, but I still think Trevor Lawrence could have an okay day here, just because there's. I
I
feel like
might play him for garbage
I
time.
feel like yeah. I mean, I don't. It's tough to bet on garbage time. You just with how the Jets played again. These games
Yeah, that's
sometimes
true.
stuff happens, but I kind of feel like he still could have a really nice day, like a bad, not a great quarterback day, but still be okay fantasy wise
Yeah,
because of passing it for 50 times or whatever.
yeah.
And maybe he'll rush in a touchdown or something, which Trevor Lawrence can do.
All right. Next up, Battle for Ohio. It's been a while since like both teams are like competent and like enjoyable to watch and all that good stuff. Um, it's kind of the same song and dance for Cleveland. It's been. Y- where are you landing on Johnson this week? Like last week, we said he probably still has the value. Like you're probably at least thinking about him. He ends up running back 30.
Yeah,
Is he just in that you hope you have a better option territory?
I mean, he only got 30% snaps. I was really hoping that this would be closer to 50-50, 60-40 or
I
something.
thought it was going to be 60-40.
Um,
So
like based on how they were using Hunt and how he did when Chubb wasn't in there, that I thought he proved that he could carry the workload. So why not give him kind of do what they would do with Hunt and Chubb? I thought that would have, I personally thought that's how that would go. Obviously, I'm not the head coach of Cleveland, and I am not qualified to be the head coach of Cleveland. I would probably say that. So I'm going to say
probably
Kevin
not.
Stefanski knows better than I do. But I was a little shocked there. So as a fantasy player, I wouldn't be surprised if we see a little bit more. Obviously, he was already in that spot where you're like maybe because Chubb's going to get the workload, so you're kind of
Yeah.
betting and on the second running back and how much value that has, and Chubb probably gets goal line work, and maybe Dearness gets a little bit of that, but and Dearness even had a touchdown in this game too. So yeah, and
Well,
it still
and I
was
mentioned this yesterday. There was like no usage in the fourth quarter. Like
yeah.
once it got to crunch time, it was all Chubb.
Yeah, so I kind of, I mean, he's not. I think you're gonna have better options.
Yeah.
I think picking up. I would rather play Carlos Hyde. Obviously, I'd rather play Adrian
Oh, absolutely.
Peterson. So
Yeah.
there's guys that you could have picked up, or if depending on when you, yeah, if when waivers run, probably by the time this was out, waivers probably already ran. But there's guys you could probably pick up that are like better than Dearness. And honestly, if you absolutely had to drop Dearness, I am okay with it because for one of those guys, if you like have no one else to drop, because Dearness value will not really be there once Kareem comes back. So as opposed to somebody like Hyde or Peterson, who's well not sure about Hyde, but maybe Peterson's value will continue throughout the year, and you might need that. Depends on what your bench looks like, of course. Wide receivers, though, I gotta say, like Baker, I mean, I don't know what to do with this. Like, obviously, there's not much value here, but Odell had one target for 6 yards. His dad posted a video or something about how like he wasn't throwing him the ball and he was wide open. And I actually haven't even watched the video. I've just heard about it, and
I actually hadn't heard about that,
it's
but
just a mess.
I
I
was I was hoping for better things from Jarvis too.
Jarvis had a really
And
bad day, like 5 for
yeah.
65. I mean, fantasy wise, isn't absolutely terrible, but just as a
Yeah.
football wet, he had a really bad day. The receivers did not help Baker. I'm not saying Baker was terrible in this game because he didn't get a whole lot of help, but
Mhm.
he wasn't great in my opinion, and continues to not be great.
Yeah. I just don't want
They
any part of
rely
the passing
heavily
game.
on the run game. Obviously, if you're playing any receiver, it's Jarvis, and they're in deeper leagues. There's obviously you would
Yeah.
probably be playing him, but if you have him, you kind of have to. But outside of that, tight ends you don't want to. Really, there's better options out there. So one of those guys may have a good week, like Njoku had a crazy good week a few weeks back, but yeah, there's three tight ends, so it's like I don't know. Hooper gets 64%, and Joku gets 64%. Harrison Bryant gets 39% of the snaps. They run it mostly two tight end sets. So this is a run team, and they're very
Yep.
good at it. Conklin, I don't think has come back this week. I think he might be back next week, so that will be a nice boost to that. But they're run first. So spent way too much time talking about wide receivers that you probably don't
Passing.
need to play anyway. I will say
No.
Odell. I'll mention this again if you want to drop him. There's
Yeah.
better guys. He's like wide receiver 80 for the year.
The
I
only
mean,
guy I think that should be owned is Jarvis, and that is just to own, not necessarily to start.
yeah,
So, so the ball Cincinnati. Burrow had a top 10 week. Nice week from him. Mixon continues to do Mixon things. Number two, all three wide receivers had pretty decent days. I mean, not what you expect from Chase at this point, sitting there at 26, but still, I mean, still got in the end zone. You know he's going to get in the end zone. every week. So, uh, but honestly, uh, 3 wide receivers with days that if you start them, you're at least not like crazy disappointed.
Yeah, I
Like,
mean this is the three wide receiver team, maybe the best three wide receiver team. Like if you just look at values like from one
yeah,
to three, uh, probably still the Rams just because Cooper Cup is so good. But it's probably kind of I don't know. It might be close just because like Tyler Boyd has obviously been more productive than uh, Van Jefferson, I think, so far. But it's probably pretty close between the trios. But yeah, this is a three wide receiver team. We've talked about it just like the Rams runs, a lot. Rams almost exclusively. Uh, Bengals a lot as well. Yeah, this Higgins had 6 targets, 4 for 97, had a nice long catch there. Boyd had the touchdown, 5 for 69. Jamar Chase only 3 for 32, but you said got in the end zone, had 9 targets. So again,
um,
he didn't have a great day, but Burrow continues to look for him. So he also had a
and
rush
Chase
for
got you almost a full point in the rushing game
yeah, he
too.
also had a rush for 9 yards. Mixon, not great running, but he's involved in the pass game. You like to see that. He had the receiving touchdown as well as a rushing touchdown. But you can look at it and you can see. I mentioned tight ends was a wasteland. Even running backs, like Mixon had 9 points in the rushing game, and he had another 15 in the receiving game. He had 24 points. I'm just going off of the box score. That was running back
Mhm.
too. We just didn't have a lot of big performances this week. It was kind of a
It happens when you lose Derrick Henry.
you just don't see
Everything's-
great performances from. Yeah, he really affected the tight end performances and the
Yeah,
running back
it affects
performances of
everything.
all other teams.
Everybody's sad. They're everybody.
But
I
yeah,
stand by
this
what I
this
said.
is just
Mhm.
not a
It was an odd week.
yeah, it was a weird week, but Burrow continues. Last 3 weeks has been top 10. Last since week 2 has been week 3 and on. He's been top 14 every week. So Burrow continues to be a QB1. If you got him, you roll him out there.
Yeah. All right. Pats. Got to shift. Panthers. Uh. Man, the Pats. Like, I mean, Harris has looked. Harris didn't. Just outside the top 20 this week. Like we said, in a week where running back wasn't great, but I mean, he's coming off a week where he was 3. So Harris still is a guy that in most situations you're probably running out there. But after that, it's like if you're in a pinch, I guess Myers, but you got to be in a pretty heck of a pinch. And same kind of thing with Hunter. I think Hunter's a guy you could justifiably use if your tight end's out on a bye week, but not a guy you want rolling out there every week.
Yeah, with the Jonnu, Hunter Henry, still you just I mean neither one of them were good this week.
Yeah.
Um, Bourne had 7 targets. Myers had 9 targets. Aguilar had 6 targets, but not much there to speak of. Harris has been really good, honestly, like the last 3 weeks
Yeah.
especially. So I think yeah, if you have him, you're rolling him out there. He's been really solid. The only problem is they have all these running backs, and this week he was the one that got the in the end zone. But you got Bolden, you got Stevenson, you got all these guys out there. Taylor had a couple touchdowns last week. I don't think he was even active in this game now. So yeah, you have all these running backs, and it's just Harris is obviously a guy you probably are starting every week, but you're gonna be frustrated because the touchdowns this week it went to him. He got a touchdown, but it's not gonna happen. You're gonna see a
Yeah, he
touchdown
get
by
vultured quite a
Stevenson. You're
bit.
gonna see Bolden. There's not a whole lot of fantasy relevance. What always seems like Bill Belichick finds a way to
Oh
not
yeah.
to make the whole team not fantasy. There was that the '07, the Brady Moss. That was incredible. Gronk, it was a great time to have Patriots. But I feel like for a while now, it's just like you're just
Oh,
so
especially at
frustrated.
running back. Yeah. He hates fantasy players when it comes to running back. I think he's personally doing it because
I
of
think
that.
he knows your fantasy team. He knows what you need, and he strategically makes sure he gets the exact points to make the most people mad. That sounds like
Yeah.
a Bill Belichick thing to do.
It's really the only explanation. Uh so other side we got the Panthers. Looks like McCaffrey could be back this week, which would obviously be a huge boom for a lot of teams. Um yeah, that's just kind of a wait and see. They're kind of on the fence as we record this on whether that's going to happen. I think we'll know more coming towards the end of the week. Um, hopefully he's back. Obviously, it'd be great to get a talent like him back. And immediately, if that happens, Hubbard is back to a handcuff
Hmm.
because he started trending the wrong direction. I mean, top 20 is not terrible. And like if McCaffrey's not playing, you're still starting him most likely. But um, this is not a situation where he's going to have value once McCaffrey's back.
Yeah. This offense really needs McCaffrey.
Yeah.
Darnold has not been good since McCaffrey's been out. Basically, I mean, it's been the last 4 weeks, which is a bulk of when he's been out. Darnold has been really, really bad, especially this week. Again, not great, especially from a fantasy perspective. Only 13 completions on 129 yards. 8 targets to DJ Moore. Continue to love his talent, but even because Darnold hasn't been good, DJ Moore hasn't been good either, really, the last 4 weeks. But still rolling him out there if you have him. Still at 8 targets. I'm hope better days ahead. I hope. I'm not even sure. I'm convinced. Better than this for sure. But
Yeah.
this offense, yeah, not great for sure. They did win
No.
this game. I think it was against the Falcons in an ugly game, but they yeah, once McCaffrey's back, he's exciting. DJ Moore.
Well, it opens that offense up
Yeah, I
too.
think
Like,
everybody's value goes up. No, I mean, even though McCaffrey obviously would get some more touchdowns, they're just going to have more yardage to go. It's just going to be easier for people to get open and such. So, nobody else though. Robbie Anderson, if you're still holding out, think you drop him. No reason to
yeah.
own him. No tight ends really worth there. So it's DJ Moore and Hubbard until McCaffrey's back, and it might be this week.
Yep. Let's hope so. All right. Broncos, Cowboys. The Broncos. I mean, Noah Fant wasn't good last week, but in general, he's pretty good. Um, Melvin Gordon had a very nice day last week. I'm trying to find something exciting to talk about. You obviously weren't thrilled with what Jerry Judy did. I think obviously better days are ahead for him. Other than that, I mean, are you penciling Judy in
I mean, again, he's kind of
automatically?
yeah. I
But
mean, it depends on your roster,
yeah,
obviously, but I think
automatic
you
is a tough word, but
probably have better options. He's probably around wide receiver 30ish or somewhere around there, maybe
yeah.
low
So
30s.
hopefully, especially with some of the
Um,
guys who've blown up.
but I do think I really like Jerry Judy, so I want to be
Yeah.
super high on him. But the quarterback play hasn't been great. I said this in yesterday's episode. I think we might see Drew Lock. Maybe not. I haven't heard anything. Maybe not this week, but I think it's coming.
Hmm.
This team is in full like sell mode.
Yeah.
They're the line in this game is Dallas by 9.5. I usually don't like those. That's a lot of points to give to an NFL team. I kind of like. I know it's always tough to predict blowouts. This feels like a blowout to me. I
It
feel
feels like
like
a definite
like
option.
Dallas is just gonna destroy them. I think they're just. I mean, Tim Patrick came out and said just like a tweet, like I don't even know, maybe an eyebrow raise or something. They're not thrilled. This locker room, they're that coaching. I'm pretty sure they lost the locker room. Now, with that said, you just never know with NFL players. They might come out and be like, "We're going to show the world, against adversity and just, play really well and make this game competitive." But I don't know. It kind of feels like a blowout. With that said, if they throw it a lot, see Patrick. I like Tim Patrick. He played most of the snaps. I like Cortland Sutton, and I love me some Jerry Judy. If they could just get some good quarterback play, I really like this trio. Like, I think it's really good. It's just crazy. They just don't have a quarterback. Can you imagine what
Yeah.
Aaron Rodgers would do? Can you just like shift it? It's like give some of this to Aaron Rodgers. Like trade over Tim Patrick or Jerry Judy or any of these guys to a competent offense, and I feel like they'll all just do so well. But on this offense, they're all
Yeah.
man. They're fine, if you got to play them, but I will say Melvin Gordon, yeah, 10 carries, Williams 9. Melvin Gordon did get the 2 touchdowns receiving and rushing, but I mean it's he's on the better half of the split, 57-43ish on the 57-43.
Yeah.
But you're gonna be frustrated because every week is gonna be could go either way. But
Yeah. That's like
Melvin is
la-
slightly better.
Yeah, 2 weeks are it's always weird because like we're talking about week 8 as if it's this week, but what in week 7 Williams was a top 10 guy, so like this can happen either way.
And if you look
Um,
at the whole year, it's kind of been. It seems like it goes back and
yeah,
forth. So
so this might be a Williams game. So if you want to just follow trends,
yeah.
uh, on the Cowboys side of the ball, obviously a ton of talent on that team. You're just penciling without even thinking about it. Dalton Schultz didn't have a great game last week. Also was without Prescott, who doesn't appear it's going to be like another week. It appears that was a one and done thing. So all credit to Cooper Rush. Kind of tells you about the talent on that team. Like Cooper Rush just came in and 12th quarterback on the week. But I mean, you're penciling in all the normal guys. You're penciling in Lamb. You're penciling Cooper. I still think Schultz is a guy that um, almost anybody who has him is penciling him in because you probably didn't pick him up if you have one of the studs. So he's probably still the best option on your team. And Prescott immediately is a start.
Yeah, and I think whenever you have a backup quarterback, especially like you kind of almost as a throwaway week a lot of times. Like you
Yeah.
really like it's like this is not their offense. Obviously, the wide receivers all came had great days, but Dalton Schultz had 7 targets, only 2 for 11. But before this, 4 straight weeks of top 8, so
Yeah.
he's been really good.
Um,
He's fantastic. So Dak will be back. Zeke better days ahead. Obviously, Zeke is a stud. Not quite where you paid it for him at running back 5-ish, but still a stud. Doesn't matter. You still penciling him in, even if you don't get number 5 running back out of him. Cooper had an amazing day. CD Lamb had an amazing day. Cedric Wilson had a good day with the touchdown and 84 yards. Michael Gallup might be back this week, so if you play Cedric Wilson as a long shot and you're just which it would seem wild to do if you did it this week. Congrats, you got lucky. But
yeah.
I think
Don't do that
Gallup,
again.
yeah, Gallup may be back. So just keep that in mind. Once Gallup's
I think
back,
even if Gallup, I don't think if he isn't back, he still doesn't have.
oh
You're
yeah,
still
but
not
just keep that in
open.
mind. And if Gallup is available, with Dak out there, he's like borderline been top 30. I don't think he is top 30, but back in the past he has been. So
If you have a
he's
particularly
probably
bad bye week and you need somebody to throw
probably
in
like
there,
maybe mid to late 30s. I'm not sure. I'd have to look at it, but there's some guys I definitely in that 30 range I've been thinking I'd like more. So I'm guessing mid 30s.
sounds about right. Game that should be pretty good. Vikings Ravens. Um, Not a great week for the Vikings, kind of overall. Um, Cousins sitting there at 19. I've been very vocal about how high I am on him. Um, I continue to be. It was a bad week, but I continue to be pretty high on Kirk Cousins. Dalvin Cook obviously had a very poor day. Yeah, I mean, it's Dalvin Cook. You're still putting him in no matter what. Thielen actually played pretty well, number 13. And then Justin Jefferson I mean, 75. He had a very bad week, but I mean, the guy's, even with a 75 on his record, he's still number 17 overall in the year. So that tells you how good he was doing prior to that. He's been like top 15. I mean, he's been a stud. So it and your guy KJ Osborne. I keep saying your guy. I don't even remember. I might have been the one to bring.
You
I think
definitely
last time we
brought
talked
him
about
up,
this last
yeah.
week, I brought him up.
Yeah.
A guy we agree on. We like his talent. We like this offense and that kind of stuff. Not a good day, but a guy. It feels like he's getting a good chunk more love nationally than he definitely was when we started talking about him.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, this was just a tough game for
Bad
Minnesota.
game.
184 yards passing for Kirk, so just not a whole lot to go around. Thielen got 80 of that right there. Conklin had a nice. I say tied in 8, but he was 5 for 57. It's just without a touchdown too. It's just a bad week overall. Fantasy just overall, I
No.
think. But Dalvin wasn't terrible. It's just he didn't get in the end zone. He didn't have any catches. That always hurts. Obviously,
Yeah.
no catches there, but still, obviously, Dalvin's a top 5 guy. So you roll him out there. Not much else. Justin Jefferson, Thielen, obviously, are starting
You're rolling
them.
out the big three.
Conklin, if you need a tight end, he's fine just with all the other guys, I think. He's another one of those guys that's in the mix as a pick.
You need him
If you
in the
need,
end zone.
if he's in the mix
Yep.
as a tight end. I have Ricky Seals Jones that I've been rolling out the last few weeks. Conklin's on the waiver wire. Their team's own 2 tight ends. He might be my best option, so I might roll him out for a week.
Yeah. All right. Other side, Ravens. Coming off a bye week, but coming off a not the best week for a lot of guys off week 7. Lamar Jackson's still a top 7 guy. Really excuse me, really kind of made up for. I mean, he had an okay passing day, but does what he does and had a heck of a rushing day in week 7. Can obviously a stud. Um, Hollywood looked really good. He's continues to be a guy you just roll out there. Andrews didn't have a great week 7, but still a top 3, 4 tight end. So I mean the normal names, the running back situation is still kind of all over the place. We've talked about it a million times. If you can avoid it at all cost.
Yeah, I mean,
I don't know. I
yeah, I
just
mean,
don't
because
know what to
they
tell you.
haven't given. I mean, there was basically a three-headed monster in
Yeah.
this game, and not a good one. They
No.
got blown out. So, yeah, this was um yeah, not a good day for the rushing attack outside of Lamar Jackson in week 7. That is, yeah, Hollywood Brown continues to be great. So
No.
I love him. If you're playing him, if you have him, you're obviously playing him. The week 6, I think it was. That was the week where he didn't, but he ended up he could have had a huge week. And
Yeah.
basically, besides that, week 3 and week 6, like he's been fantastic, and he's had opportunities in those games as well. So yeah, he's amazing. Outside of him, Bateman did have 3 for 80, so an interesting name. 6 targets. Obviously Andrews. So Bateman is kind of interesting. Coming in this offense, we'll wait and see. Obviously, I don't think you play him yet, but
No.
definitely could be owned. And then Hollywood Brown. Lamar Jackson is currently quarterback 3. I'm trying to think. Besides Josh Allen, you really. I mean, I know you love Tom Brady, but he's either like 2, 3. I know Kyler's up. Like he's right there.
Listen, I love having Tom Brady on my team. I would I would trade for Lamar Jackson. Like, don't get me wrong. Like,
So
Lamar
yeah,
Jackson would be he'd be my number 2 right
I
now.
think he is number 2 behind Josh Allen. So
Yeah,
I love Lamar Jackson, fantastic quarterback and fantasy quarterback.
absolutely. All right, next up, real barn burner. Next up, Texans Dolphins, and that's not even like that's not only hating on the Texans because it's fun to do with you sitting here. Just in general, like this is not a game anybody's super excited about. But it looks like Taraj should be back. Hopefully, we thought he might be back last week, but it looks like an even better chance this week. Hopefully,
Yeah, and we'll see what if we might talk about players that may not even be on the Texans roster come Sunday, but yeah, if Brandon Cooks is still there,
do you
if
really think other teams want these players?
Brandon
Uh,
Cooks
I
out
was gonna say other than Cooks. Let me finish my sentence.
David Johnson could be like as like a really like late round
No.
pick, that's like adding depth to the position, but
Yeah.
yeah, it's not much to talk about here. Um, David
It's
Johnson
Cooks. It's
continues to I kind of think could be the guy. I mean, it was weird though because Rex Burkhead got the majority of snaps in this game. So this was obviously a complete blowout. The just they just got absolutely destroyed by the Rams. Uh the Dolphins are 6.5 point favorites in this game, which seems crazy because the Dolphins are also 1-7.
yeah, but they're a different kind of 1-7. Let's be honest. Like, listen, they're not a good team,
They're
but
almost a touchdown favorite, and they only have one win.
well, you got to think about it. They get the 3 points for being home.
Oh my goodness.
So
But I will say, if Tyrod plays, I think this is a whole different team, and I think this will
yeah.
be a competitive game. If Tyrod doesn't play, Dolphins by 15 or something. I don't know, but
I will
yeah,
say, like, if Rod plays, awesome for Brandon. Like, Brandon Cook's been great anyways, but obviously a huge help to him.
yeah. So I still think David Johnson's the guy you own if you're a running back, but
I mean, if you have to, but
like depending on the size of your league, deep
yeah,
benches,
yeah.
whatever, you might own him. I'm not saying you start him, but
No.
he's the guy that maybe with Tyrod coming back, and maybe there will be some value there.
Well, if it makes you feel better on the other side, at least the Texans have like a guy you want to own. I don't know that the Dolphins have anybody that you're excited to own. Like there are guys that are owned in your league, but there's not. Um, Gaskin is somehow continues to be one of the only. I mean, he's had a couple good weeks, but in general, one of the few guys who has the job. It's his job, and still hasn't found a way to be super relevant.
Yeah, he only got 58% of snaps, and I think like when he was, some of these weeks he's got like no. It's like so confusing on what they're doing in
No.
Miami. I have no idea with with him. He had like I think it was week 4. He like didn't see the field like at all. He was like hardly on the field, and
Yeah.
then week 5 he might not have been playing him. He might have, but like and then he was running back too. So, yeah, Devontae Parker, 11 targets, solid. I like Tua. They said that they're not going to pursue the Deshaun Watson. I think I saw that trade. I'm happy for their fan base because I don't think anybody actually wanted them to trade any real draft picks
No.
for Deshaun. Not happy, obviously. I was hoping the Texans would trade him, but yeah,
No.
Tua I think's been solid. I think he's been really, really, really solid, and I don't know why they would be so insistent on trading for Deshaun with how Tua's been playing. So
Yeah, they're not in like a
um,
huge
they
deficit.
have
So
problems. Miami does, but
you know who could
Tua
really use
hasn't.
Deshaun Watson? The Texans. Like
Yeah,
he would really help that team.
they would. But yeah, Tua's been solid. I think he's been really solid,
Yeah.
and I
He,
think Will Fuller is supposed to be back. I think in this game, so we'll see. He's been so banged
yeah.
up, so he could be somebody
Yeah.
in especially a deeper league that you may want to pick up. If he's probably owned in deeper leagues, but
Um,
I don't know.
he's got a ton of talent when he's on the field.
I know, like
He's
when
great,
with him and
but
Hopkins, they were like 2 top 10
yeah.
receivers. They were amazing, and it was good, like good time to be a Texans fan. And then how we have fallen.
Yep. So, all right. Chargers Eagles. Uh, Herbert didn't have a great day, but I mean, he's still a guy who's uh, probably starting in every league. I say it could have, depending on how drafts went and stuff, but more than likely starting in every league. Eckler is very good at football. I don't know if you were aware, and Allen had a nice day, sitting there at 15, a little bit ahead of what he's been doing all year. Um, but that was with Mike Williams having a pretty bad day, so you kind of expect those to. Mike Williams had a couple in a row on both sides of the bye, but you kind of expect those to even out a little bit, I would say. Keenan Allen was drafted higher, but Mike Williams has had like the really boom weeks, so uh, probably both guys you're probably starting most of the time, but nothing super exciting to talk about here as far as like sleepers or anything. I don't think.
Yeah, Eckler, incredible. He's involved in the pass game a lot. That's what will really help his value. Obviously, he's very very good. Herbert, obviously not his best day here in Week
Yeah.
8. Yeah, he was not good at all. Actually, he was quite bad. Keenan Allen, I will say, like I've been pretty high on him. I think Mike. I think he's clearly the guy. I know for the year it's been Mike Williams is
Yeah, but
because of
Mike
those
Williams
big weeks.
is helped by those huge
Yeah.
weeks.
Keenan Allen is clearly the guy you would want to own between those two. And Keenan Allen is drafted as wide receiver 9. I still think he has a realistic chance based on this how explosive his offense is that he won't finish probably in the top 10 because he's kind of behind right
He
now.
could sneak in
But
the 15 though.
he could be top 15 and maybe even rest of the season be top 10. I think this is 11 targets. I think this is the type of weeks he's going to have for pretty much the rest of the season. This is his I don't want to say it's his floor because he had a touchdown, but I think close to 100 yards every single week is what you're going to get out of Keenan Allen.
Yeah,
And
I
Mike
think that's
Williams will
fair.
continue to be boom or bust, I think.
Yeah, which is what he's been all season. And Cook continues to be a guy you could plug in. He had a very bad week 8, but I think he's still a guy you can plug in on bye weeks.
Yeah, the problem with Cook
Um,
is again another guy who like just wasn't on the field that much in this game. So I think that might have been just more based on other. Maybe he got banged up, nicked up. I'm not sure, but he just wasn't on the field that much. So that's the thing with assuming he's on the field, which this game he wasn't. He didn't really have much production.
yeah. On the Eagles side, bad week for Hurts. I think we've both come around on Hurts and think this is an anomaly and he'll be fine.
Well, bad week because they played the Lions and Jared Goff, and they absolutely destroyed the Detroit Lions.
Just let me know when you're done.
Hold on. QBR of almost. I mean, he almost had a perfect QBR. Like it wasn't like Hurts was bad. It was just the game was they didn't need. He threw it 14 times.
There's a reason they had a couple of running backs.
He even had 71 yards rushing. He had 7 points rushing, and he finished as quarterback 25. It was a complete blowout from start to finish. They ran the ball 46 times in this game. They passed it 16 because Minshew Mania came in at the end. But yeah, Boston Scott 12 carries, Jordan Howard 12, Kenneth Gainwell 13. What an absolute just crazy. Well, like, what are
No.
you supposed to do with that? Boston
Well,
Scott
we
got
talked about it
some goal
yesterday.
line
We think
work. Howard got some.
Boston Scott is probably at this point the guy you want to roll with if you're rolling with one of them.
Yeah,
It's tough situation. They're not going to run this many times every game. I make fun of you, but yeah,
probably.
it was a blowout. Like I get that. Uh, wide receiver wise, I'm like officially just not start like I you can't like no doubt pencil in Devontae Smith. Like he can be up for consideration, but he's definitely not a but like a no brainer. And nobody else is relevant. Godare though had a nice week, and honestly, on the season has sneakily been a guy who's played pretty well. And when Ertz was there, he had the 2 weeks that Godare didn't play. Ertz was did pretty well. So he's one of those guys. I don't think you're rocking with him every week, probably, but another one of those fill in. That's the nice thing about it. Seems like tight end this year. There's a lot of guys that you don't necessarily want to roll with every week, but you can kind of plug and play pretty easily.
Yeah, he was. It was fine. Again, it's 13 points here, and that still put him at tight end 4. Like, it was
We get
crazy.
it. You hate tight ends this week.
But I will say, Watkins, Quez Watkins. I'm not gonna speak highly, say you should pick him up, or this has nothing to do with actually has to do with him at all. But I was looking up wide receiver ranks, and he actually is ranked higher for the season than Odell Beckham, and that just tells you nobody is thinking about picking up Watkins, right? Like, he's completely unowned. But Odell is, that's not the case. Like, you should not be owning Odell, in my opinion. He should be dropped. He's in that realm where it's just not good, obviously. Yeah, I think Boston Scott though with that is probably the guy that you would pick up there. Howard with 12. I mean, again, if you can't get Scott, you might be stuck with picking up somebody like Howard and see what happens. Again, we'll kind of just wait and see because this was a complete blowout, so it's hard to know exactly what will happen when they're in a
Yeah.
tough game. And this will be, I think, a tough game. I think it's going to be a very competitive game. I think it's going to be a high scoring game too. But this, I think, will be a really, really good game. And I think one of the better games for the week, like just from a competitive and fantasy perspective.
Yeah, I think it's fair. All right. Next up, Packers. In a game where we talked about last week, there was going to be no receiving options, which played out exactly kind of how we expected. It's not great when you're running. I mean, it's great if you're there, if you're the Jones owner because he was the leading receiver for the Packers. But this week, Adams is back, Lazard's back.
Valdez Scantling might be back.
Might be back. So better things for the team as a whole. Obviously, Adams is possibly like a top 3
Definitely
wide
top
receiver.
3, I would say.
Yeah, top 3 wide receiver. The other guys, I think there's a spot where you could start one of the other guys. I don't know that you feel great about it, but they're kind of up in the air consideration. I would definitely say Valdez Scantling is the guy you'd rather start, in my opinion. But I don't think you're probably, unless you're in a pinch, starting either one of those.
Yeah, the last time we've seen him, like,
Safely.
he was wide receiver 23 back in week 3. So I guess maybe
Yeah.
there's also we're kind of we're recording this early in the week. They might trade for a wide receiver, though. Green Bay doesn't usually
Do that?
do anything to help Aaron Rodgers, as you can see from his receiving core.
Yeah.
But yeah, we'll see. Tanyan on IR. So Mercedes Lewis, I don't really want to play him. I don't think so. Yeah, Aaron Jones really good. AJ Dillon, 16 carries for 78 yards. I think at this point should definitely be owned in every league. And obviously, if anything happens to Aaron Jones, and even as a AJ Dillon had 40% of snaps, even as just like probably not even a great flex play, I would say, but just as when bye weeks come in, there might be a shot you might be playing him anyway. Depending on your league. So he continues to get a lot of love there as a nice 1-2 punch with Aaron Jones. So Aaron Rodgers only threw it for 184 yards in this game. So there's not a whole lot. When you have those wide receivers, you're probably not going to have a crazy good day. Still quarterback 14, though.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think the number 1 wide receiver was Winfrey. Jawan Winfrey, 4 for 30, had 7 points. Also, I know I talked about tight ends with this, but Aaron Jones looks like he had like 20 points this week, running back four. Like there was just not again. I keep like running back four. Like is sounds great, but usually that's like 25, close to 30 points. Had 20 points. Just I don't
Yeah.
understand what happened this week. I don't get it.
Like we said, it was a crazy one. All right. On the Chiefs side, not a fantastic day for. I mean, Hill went crazy. Hill was number 4. I mean, he's kind of where you expect him to be
18
up
targets.
there. Yeah. So, Mahomes at 17. Obviously, not what you want. A couple reasonably poor weeks in a row. I don't think you're benching Mahomes. Edsler could be back this week. It's kind of. It looks like that one's a little bit more up in the air than the other ones. Uh, but if he's back, he's an immediate like. I know he's not a top 5 guy, but he's an immediate start pretty much for you, and I think immediately takes any value that Williams had away. I don't think they're both going to have any value.
Yeah, for sure. Darrell Williams had 6 catches as well. That's what really helped his value.
Yeah.
12 points in the passing game, 6 for 61. Tyreek Hill, outside of him, I guess Hardman was okay. But man, Travis Kelce, 4 for 27. That stings
Yeah.
for sure. I think he might have had a fumble as well in there. Yeah, just not a good day for Kansas City. It's kind of weird. Kansas City is 4-4.
Yeah.
Mahomes is
It's
not looking great.
from a
Uh,
football standpoint, it's
they have this game as a complete even, like the betting line right now. 7-1
I
Green
think
Bay.
that's
It's
fair.
going into Kansas City, so that's what really helps
Yeah,
that.
that's
But
surprising you. Yeah.
I still think based on what I've seen, like I mean Green Bay, it feels like it should be the favorite in this game. I'm shocked it's straight even. I thought Green Bay would be a slight favorite. Obviously, it's not going to be a huge favorite. Kansas City has still got crazy amount
Kansas
of
City
talent.
and at home.
Yeah,
I kind
it's
of
not
get
going to
it.
be a huge line, but I thought Green Bay would be the slight favorite there. So if I
I
had to
can't.
if I had to say who would win this game, I would say Green Bay. Obviously, I don't feel great about it, but
Yeah.
uh,
I will say it's amazing. Kelsey has week 4 he was 21 and week 8 he was 28. This last week he was 28. Still the number 1 tight end. Like he's just been so good every other week that it's crazy. Like
yeah,
he's so above everybody
yep.
else. It's nuts. All right. Next up we got Cards 49ers. Um not a fantastic fantasy week for the Cards. Um Kyler at 29, obviously significantly disappointing. Hopkins at 53, not where you want to be. Um, Edmonds, Connor, they were both kind of top. I guess that's kind of you're not you're okay with those. They must have both gotten both got in the end zone, didn't they?
Connor had 2 touchdowns. Edmonds
Yeah,
had
I was gonna
one.
say. Yeah, so they both got in the end zone, so that helped their value. But still, I mean, they are where they're going to be. They're in that 20s, somewhere in the 20s range, probably on a week to week basis. Ertz had another decent day. I mean, Ertz continues to look pretty good for him. A 6 and a 15 overall is not bad. But I mean, you know who you're starting for the Cards. You're starting Kyler, you're starting Hopkins, and
Yeah,
they're
Hopkins. I mean, I'm still concerned, but I'm not so much concerned after this game. He could have easily had a touchdown on that 55-yard catch, which would change this
you know,
week decent amount. But uh, I am concerned, but not as much with this game specifically, because this was a bad game across the board for Kyler, fantasy wise, as well as the receiving core. But yeah, he just hasn't. Hopkins just even the 3 weeks before, like he's had a lot of he's gotten the end zone, which helped. But like you haven't had a Hopkins type game yet.
see. I
Uh,
think the reason I'm not disappointed with Hopkins is I've just at
besides
this
week
point
one,
I've readjusted my expectations. Like I
yeah,
think that's the only reason I'm not disappointed. Like I'm no longer thinking of him as the 4th drafted wide receiver.
yeah. I just don't think he's top 10 anymore. But with that said, he's obviously still you're playing him most likely, unless you're in
Yeah.
like an 8-team league. There's a chance you could have better options, but yeah, you're probably rolling him out there, or if you got Jamar Chase. See, we were talking about this before, but
Yeah.
like you could like if you have Jamar Chase and you have somebody, well, you could have Cooper Cup, obviously a little bit later. You could have Michael Pittman, which is
Yeah.
kind of borderline. You might still play Hopkins, but like there's a chance you have receivers that were drafted much later that you definitely would play over Hopkins with Jamar Chase, I think, and obviously Cooper Cup. And then,
Yeah.
that's two right there. And those guys you could have got much later. I think Cooper Cup was like wide receiver. We'll see him soon, like 17 or
Yeah.
something. He was later, maybe not. It
Something like
might have
that.
been
Yeah.
later than that. But yeah, see, and then obviously Jamar Chase much later, like 30. And so and
Cup was
Michael Pittman much
17.
later. So yeah, so I mean, you could legitimately not be playing him. So there is, but most people will be playing him though. So there's
Yeah.
not really much to talk about there, but it just continues to be a little disappointing. And it's
Yeah.
funny
Just
with
to readjust your
Edmonds
expectations.
and Connor are basically exactly where you drafted them. They're like they haven't moved. They're like exactly what you paid for them. You just wish that one of them, Connor gets a lot of the goal line work. He get Edmonds gets in the end zone here, but Connor, besides those two touchdowns, didn't really do anything. But when you have two touchdowns, that helps. Makes him a top 20 guy. Edmonds
Feels
here
like a
as well.
situation where if one of those guys went down, like the other guy immediately vaults into like
Edmonds still the guy I
uh,
think you want to
great
own, you
territory.
want to play, but it's close because
Yeah.
the touchdowns are
I think in
generally going to
most
go to
leagues,
Connor.
they're both getting played
Yeah,
on basically a weekly basis. Uh,
they're definitely close, depending.
yeah. And next up, we got the 49ers. Um, Garoppolo had a great game. Looked looked fantastic. Um, no no passing, but I was gonna say I thought he ran in for a couple, so that helped vaulted him to number 2. Um, looks like unless something happens, probably his job for the rest of the season. I know we've kind of played with that idea a little bit. Elijah Mitchell has a top 10 day. I mean, since he got his chance, I mean, week 7 and week 8, he's looked great. He had a great week 1. Super happy with what he's doing. Debo continues to be a stud. Um, I not a ton of. It looks like Kittle could be back this week, which I'm personally very excited about. Because I've been playing the streaming tight end game since he went down. So, um, not a whole lot of new names to talk about for the
Yeah,
49ers.
Elijah Mitchell. I think at this point, I mean, this is a not the easiest of matchups. So I'm not saying you guarantee you play him, but I think there's a good chance you would,
Yeah,
obviously.
most people are. Yeah.
Um, and then Debo, obviously, and then Kittle. Like, there's not much. Garoppolo against Arizona. I mean, don't love it, obviously. He had a really good fantasy day thanks to 2 rushing touchdowns, but like,
Yeah.
and you're like, okay, that's not really repeatable. And granted, he's not. It isn't really repeatable. He hasn't been anything remotely that good fantasy wise, but he had a great day just as a quarterback. So it kind of stinks, honestly. I want to see Trey Lance,
Yeah.
but especially if they win this game, it's a complete even on the money line. Um, if they lose, depending on how it is, there's a chance we could see. Again, depends every week. It kind of depends. Probably Garoppolo. I don't want to say you locked it. Like if he has a bad week and they get blown out or something, like in a
I think
couple,
it'd take a
it
couple at
could.
this
Yeah,
point.
that's what I'm saying. Like it could. Like there'd be 3-5. Maybe they lose again and they're 3-6 or something, and they're like, okay, you got the Rams and the Cardinals who are clearly ahead. And then there's probably you're probably running the wild card doesn't really seem like it's going to happen, so you might bring in Lance. That's like the situation where Lance. I think realistically you're probably going to see Garoppolo the rest of the season. And if you're a Kittle owner and you're a Samuel owner, I think you're completely okay with that. Mitchell, all those guys. Really, just if you have Trey Lance, that's where it stinks.
Yeah, exactly. All right, Titans Rams. Um, any news come out of the Titans game that might be fantasy relevant this week?
No, I think
Oh, AJ Brown. AJ Brown had a great day.
yeah.
That's.
AJ
I mean,
Brown took over as no well Derrick Henry actually played all this game, but pretty much all this game. AJ Brown 10 for 155 and a touchdown. He is an absolute stud. Welcome to fantasy football, AJ Brown. He has arrived for
it's
this
about
season.
time.
Week 7, wide receiver 4. Week 8, wide receiver 1, and I think maybe top 5 now. I know he's currently 25 on the season. And he was drafted at 8. I think he might be top 5. He's like you have the Cup,
Yeah.
to Adams, Tyreek. I'm sure I'm missing one big name. Maybe Chase. If I know you love Chase, but you love Chase, but like I would take AJ Brown in that situation. But like he's like I think I'm probably missing a name or so. He might
He's
be
in the
top 5
conversation.
as top
Yeah.
5. He's arrived. But yeah, obviously the big news here is, and I'll mention I don't think there's any other wide receivers you care about.
No.
Running backs, Adrian Peterson. Obviously, we talked about him in the waiver wire video. Should have been picked up and probably played. I mean, if you
Yeah.
lost Henry, there's a good chance you have to or there's a good chance, depending on your roster, of course, you might have just picked him up so no one else could have him. But
Yeah.
there's a good chance you're playing Peterson now, and you can't really wait to see. You just got to
I
go
put
with
a
it.
claim, but I'm also 8th on the waiver wire, so feels unlikely. Um, yeah, it's you hate to see it. We've talked about it on the episode yesterday. We've talked about Henry quite a bit this season. Obviously, he was just heads and tail, like so far ahead of everybody else at position. But he also worked so much that we kind of thought this might be something that comes up. So it's unfortunate. It's definitely unfortunate. It looks like it probably ended his season, and
I did
not
see
good for
they
the game
think
of
he might
football.
be back, like he's eligible, like or maybe not even that he might like week 15, week 16. So like if they make a playoff run, which it looks like they're a playoff team, he could be
Yeah.
available for the playoffs, which is really good for obviously for the Titans.
Yeah.
I
And
will,
that'd be a nice comeback if you make it to like the championship of your fantasy season, and all of a sudden you have Henry again.
yeah,
Like that's a nice boom for
surprise.
you. Yeah. But we talked about it yesterday, and the more we thought about it, I was kind of on the I think McNichols might be the guy this week and Peterson going forward. But the more I kind of thought about it and looked into it a little bit more since we recorded that episode, I think Peterson might just right off the bat be the guy that you want.
Yeah, McNichols is one of those like sort of like if you want to try, it's like you throw a dart and see if it will. He could have a really nice game here for sure.
Yeah.
Depending, especially given the team that they're playing, this is expected to be a shootout,
Yeah.
and the Rams they have a pretty good team. Uh,
They're
they
okay.
just added Von Miller, pretty good pass rusher. They have Aaron Donald, also pretty good at football. They have Jalen Ramsey on that defense. They're very good. They have some very good
Yeah.
players. Uh, on offense, they also have very good players. So that's the fantasy relevance of the Rams. Yeah, Daryl Henderson continues
Real
to
real
be
hard hitting analysis coming from you on
yeah
this one.
continues to be great. I'm shocked that the Rams are 7.5 point favorite. I'm the biggest Rams fan besides Rams fans, but it's like I don't know.
That sentence, like I knew what you were saying, but that sentence was
Yeah,
just
from a fantasy perspective, I can't be more. I
yeah.
can't really be higher
No,
than they're my
I knew
favorite
what you meant.
offense. Like when you said James Robinson is like a top 10 running back, you're like, I can't be higher. But you're like, wait.
First of all, I put him at 7, and I feel
But
like
I literally the Rams are my favorite offense. And Cooper Cup, Robert Woods, and Van Jefferson. I love them all. I think they're all nice plays. Obviously, depending on where you're at. Like obviously, Cooper Cup is one. Robert Woods is middle. Top 20, top
mhm,
15, somewhere in
somewhere
there,
there.
15 to 20. And then Van Jefferson is probably, with now that Deshaun's out, is probably like around like mid 35 maybe. But
Yeah,
I'm going to say he's around 30 because I think with him getting all the snaps now, should be around there. But yeah, I love this offense. Stafford, quarterback four.
well,
Quarterback four has been really solid.
it's
It's
almost like
crazy how
playing
good
for
the
the Lions
offense
isn't
does.
fun.
Yeah, and it's crazy how much better the offense is now that they made a significant upgrade at quarterback.
All right, next game,
Did
Bears
you want to add any
Steelers.
analysis to
No,
the?
I don't want to add anything because you're just going to keep going. Listen, what is there to say about the Rams? We know what we know. Like
Okay, well,
they have 4 surefire studs, and then
um,
a guy that you are at least thinking about playing. Like there's not a whole lot of teams that have that.
okay, and Higby at tight end is fine as well. What do you think about the 7.5 point line? I know you're not really a betting guy, but that seems kind of high. I mean, I
I'm
know
not a
they
betting
lost
guy because
Henry.
if I started, I don't know where the end point is.
Henry going out obviously is pretty big, but I was shocked to see a 6-2 Titans team. I mean,
No.
they've not like they've looked really good recently. I'm shocked that they're 7.5 point underdogs. Even the Rams are not. I mean, they're the home team, but let's be honest, they're not really the best home team. They're
Yeah, I don't think that I that see I honestly that sounds about right to me. You get the what, the 3 points for being at home. I don't know. Like I think they're probably 4.5 points better than the Titans.
I think the game's gonna be close. I will see. I think it's gonna be a nice shootout, though. I think it's good for
It'll be a
fantasy.
fun game to watch. It's definitely going to
A
be like
great
the
Sunday night football game. Really
yeah.
excited about. I hope. I mean, obviously, if it's a blowout, it's probably gonna be the Rams blowing out the Titans, but should be a really competitive game. I think.
Yeah. I think there you also have to think about it from the odds maker stand. I don't know why we're talking about this so much, but like Derrick
I
Henry
like
going
it.
down, that is a like Derrick Henry going down is a big hit to that team. Like he was the focus of that offense. And now from one just stud team to another. Chicago Bears, Pittsburgh Steelers on Monday night. Fields, it's almost like if you let Fields do what he does, he's pretty good at football. Not that this was planned in any way; it was all improvised. But had 103 yards rushing, um, got in the end zone,
On that
had a
fantastic run.
yeah, great run. Um, didn't do a whole lot in the passing game, as is kind of the usual, but um, it's still there's just nobody. Like Montgomery might be back this week, and then you're probably thinking about him. Herbert didn't have a great week last week, but has been super solid filling in. But I feel like as soon as Montgomery's back, Herbert's doesn't really have any relevance after that. So
Yeah, we'll see on him because Herbert's been really good. He didn't get in the end zone this week, but they gave him the ball 23 times. You know, he ran 23, so like they believe in him enough to.
yeah, I
Obviously, way
don't see
more
him
than
taking
Damian
that
Williams.
job.
No,
Though.
I think it's Montgomery's job. Montgomery was really good, but we don't know how healthy he'll be, and we'll see like how they break it up. They might, kind of both be viable. We'll see.
I wouldn't
Probably
be like
not.
rushing to drop Herbert.
Yeah, I
Like
don't
maybe
think you should
see what the
drop him
first
yet.
week
Yeah.
with Montgomery looks like. Like there are some guys where I think you can, as soon as the starter comes back, you can get rid of him. But I think Herbert's a guy you might want to hold on to for a week, see what he does with Montgomery back.
Yeah, and Fields,
Um,
yeah, I think overall, like, I mean, throwing for 175 yards, like, a really solid game. I mean,
mhm.
obviously, Robinson continued to do nothing. Mooney, I guess, was fine, but yeah, just there's not based
Yeah,
on
not
how
doing
this
anything with it.
offense here. The I'm not gonna have you guess because I'm sure you're just gonna be way off, but the over under on this game is 40. Just to tell you, that's the smallest of all the games. This is why is this a
I mean,
Monday
that
Night
makes
Football?
sense.
Yeah, well, yeah, for sure. But why is it this? I mean, I get it. Like, why is like already been planned? But like, this is terrible. This like
Well, here's
I
the thing.
don't
You're
want to
thinking
see
from a
it.
football standpoint. They're thinking from a viewership standpoint. Those are both teams that have pretty good fan bases. So I kind of it's a money thing.
We're gonna have like 7 punts from each team, and it's gonna be Boswell coming out from his a heroic comeback here, and he's going to kick a game winner from like 48 yards to win in just a barn burner, 12-6 game winner.
You
I
heard
just
it
said game winner, not 12-9. I kind of forgot what I just said what I was saying in my sentence. I'm 12
in
to
your own
9.
made up situation. You heard it right here. Take the under. Uh, so we touched on it. Steelers on the other side of the ball. Harris still a stud. Um, Johnson had a decent day. I mean, not what you want from him. He was at 21. Claypool didn't do a whole lot. Um, I mean, I don't. It's Harris. It's Johnson. It's probably Claypool. That's what you
Yeah,
care about on
Johnson
the
had
Steelers.
13 targets. Claypool,
Yeah.
if you want to roll, I mean, he's fine. Um, 5 targets, 4 for 45. Fryermuth, 7 targets, and he got in the end zone, so he had a really nice day there. Again, I mean, he had 14 points. 4 for 44 is not even bad. I mean, that would have put him borderline top 10 this week. So with the touchdown, gives him a tight end 3. Uh, so yeah, Harris has been a really, really nice. I don't want to say. I mean, I'll say surprise because you took him at running back 11, but he's currently running back 3. So I mean, if you have him, you're super happy with that. And that's
You know,
including Derrick Henry going out. He's 1 on a points per game. So like Eckler is I think 2. So he's right. He's right behind him. So as rest of season, I don't know who you would rather have besides Najee here. Like 1 or 2 guys maybe. It's not. It's pretty close.
yeah. You want to hear something disgusting? So in my dynasty league, I had the number 2 pick. I got Pitts, but the guy that had the number 1 pick got Harris. Obviously, Jamar Chase fell to the second round. He got him at the first pick in the second round. You got Harris and Chase this year in the dynasty league.
That's crazy. And I mentioned earlier, like Jonathan Taylor, like is he a top 5 guy? Like Harris is right there as well. So like
Yeah.
that's a name I forgot, but he's been
Yeah.
really really good.
It's weird because it didn't even cross my mind to think of Harris, but then you look at it, and he's just been kind of that same thing as
He's been top 10 every week
yeah,
except the
other than
first
week
week.
1. Yeah.
So he's been like Jonathan Taylor, really. I
Yeah.
thought, like, is there any running back like Jonathan Taylor with like 5-6 straight weeks of top eight? Well, not top
There's
8, but top 10, and there's a
a
1, there's a
couple of
4 or
real
5,
low
like
numbers, yeah.
really good ones. So like him and Jonathan Taylor, the two most like the consistent running backs in. But now that Derrick Henry's gone out for a while.
Yeah. So, all right, that is week 9. Lions, Seahawks, Bucks, football team.
All on by.
Out on bye.
Did you want to talk about the Lions at all to end the
Do
show
we
on?
have do we have to?
No,
What?
I have absolutely nothing
Okay.
to add about
I
the
would say if you
Lions.
have something to actually add about the Lions, we can gladly talk about them. But if you're just gonna rip on Jared Goff, then no.
I'm wearing my Jared Goff blue. Like I gotta.
This show ever takes off, we start bringing something in. I'm buying you a Jared Goff jersey and gonna force you to wear it.
Okay.
But all right. So week 9, like we said, where's the time gone? If you made this far, thank you. We know these Wednesdays covering everything takes a little bit. So if you made it to the end, thank you very much. It means a lot to us. Hit that like button. That would help a lot. Obviously, if you made it this far, you at least like us a little bit. And put out 5 days a week. Tuesdays, look for waiver wires, injuries, that kind of stuff. Wednesdays, full recap. The other 3 are kind of up in the air. Shorter episodes usually. Focus on kind of one specific thing. So, like I said, like, subscribe if you haven't, leave us a comment. All means a lot to us.
Yeah, I respond. I think pretty much to every comment. So if you have a question on who to start, I think I'm batting 100%. I mean, it's only been like 3 comments on it, but like I think I've got them all right so far.
I will say I like that you put it out there that you're the one responding. That way, if you do give bad advice,
yeah,
it's only on you.
But like I said, Marvin
now
Jones,
I'm going to start responding and just giving terrible advice, so they think it's you.
Marvin Jones, Jerry Jeudy this past week. Just pat myself on the back. Marvin Jones outscored Jerry Jeudy by 0.7 points. Really helpful. When the leading guy, got 8.5. But
hey, that was the question you were given. You answered the question given.
I might have also said they're like both like borderline top 30, which may not have been true. I'm not sure, but I don't know if I actually mentioned that. But that's kind of where I was at. Anyways, yeah, leave a comment. I'll respond. But give my great fantasy advice there. Like, share, all that stuff. It really does help us out. And have a wonderful day. I'm not sure what we're doing the rest of the week. Did you, I think
we'll figure it out.
There will be
we always do.
You'll see a video pop up, and we'll be surprised too. We'll be like, wait, what? We made that video? What? I didn't. Okay, we might have known because we made the video, but we'll be surprised whenever we decide to do it. So thank you so much. Check that out. Tuesday through Saturday. We're here. Have a wonderful day. See ya.
See ya.